This morning, our top story comes in from sports because Rohit Sharma and his group will be taking to the field with a billion hearts beating for them as India faces New Zealand in the World Cup semi-final today afternoon. India will look to the progress to the final, of course, being the only undefeated team so far in the tournament with 9 wins out of 9, fingers crossed. In the earlier encounter between the two sides, it was the Indian team that had got the better of Kiwis. But India will also hope to settle some old scores. They had, remember, crashed out of 2019 World Cup at the hand of the same New Zealand team. There is no denying the fact that history has favoured New Zealand. After all, they have beaten India on 9 occasions out of 14 in the ICC White Ball tournament. But this Indian team, today, presently, has steamrolled opposition for the last 1 month. And they will want to continue to do it in Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium today. And so joining me this morning in our telecast is my colleague and India Today sports editor Nikhil Naz, who has all the latest on that. Nikhil, you know, they do have 9 out of 9. But is there anything to feel worried about today for Team India?
Well, if you take a look at the way this Indian team has been performing throughout this World Cup, I'd say not much to worry about. They've ticked all the boxes. There isn't any one particular area that seems to be Indian team's weakness. So nothing to worry about. The only thing that, when you look at this game, that you might still have doubts over is the fact that, listen, this is a knockout. This is a repeat knockout of what happened in the last edition of the World Cup. It's the same opposition in New Zealand. And sometimes we've seen this Indian team in the past, in the recent past, sometime not being able to handle pressure. And I think that's the only criticism that can go against this Indian team. Having said that, if you saw this Indian team throughout this edition of the World Cup, you'd think that there's nothing wrong at all in terms of how they've handled pressures, because they've been in some tough situations in this tournament. The Australia game comes to your mind, where they were struggling, losing those early wickets, yet overcame that pressure and won that game. So they've been doing well throughout the tournament, so nothing really to worry about on that front. Handling of pressure is one area where they'll be a bit concerned about. And the only other thing, sometimes conditions are beyond your control. Sometimes conditions, for example, the toss, because a lot has been spoken about the toss here at the Wankhede Stadium. What must a team do if they win the toss? And the stats are overwhelmingly in favor of the team batting first. And if India don't get to do that, then, as I said, those are the elements that come into play. So those will be only the two areas, the pressure as well as these conditions of not being able to bat first, which the stats support, would be the two areas that India would want to be wary against.
Nikhil, let's also talk a technical aspect here for the viewer. Do you think Rohit Sharma may have to change the approach? How will the Team India progress? The kind of toss they may win and choose? Could conditions be the key here this time if we really want to win the semi-final and safely?
So, I mean, just to put it into perspective, what's been happening in this tournament, batting first, the average first inning total is 350 plus. That comes down to 188 when you're batting second. So that's how much of a difference there is. And why is that difference there? Because there is that first 1 hour period where you've seen the ball really do a lot. And most teams that are chasing are losing about, on an average, 4 wickets in the power play. And once you lose those 4 wickets, which is why the totals in the second innings are drastically lower than the ones that you see in the first innings. And that's why you see this discrepancy in terms of batting first as well as batting second. Now, to the question whether if India were to bat second, should the Indian team change its batting approach? I think they'll have to look at doing that. Up until now, the openers have been firing, especially Captain Rohit Sharma. He takes that aggressive role where he wants to set the tempo, not worrying about his own wicket, and that he feels then percolates down to the rest of the batting order. That's been the template that India has followed. That's worked for them. But in case India are batting second, and as I mentioned, there is a bit of swing to begin with, then I think he will need to alter that approach, bat a bit more calmly, be a bit more circumspect in his approach, because once that 10 over 15 over period is done, then it gets to be a batting paradise. Then you can even chase down that 300 run total. So I think you'll have to keep the conditions in mind, and the Indian team then will have to change their approach if they are batting second. But believe you me, if India is batting first, then I don't think it'll be much of a contest. If India are chasing, then it becomes a close 50-50 contest.
Well, the team can do as they wish, but they'll have to win this because, of course, a billion people prayers with them, and we've been unbeaten, so might as well continue that streak. Appreciate you joining us, Nikhil Nas, this morning on The First Up.